You're a project manager and you've scheduled a 1-hour meeting, but now you find yourself an hour and a half in with no end in sight. And this happens every week. Time is a valuable resource, so we want to make sure we don't waste it. My name is Josh Moree, this is PMP Flow, and in this episode, Managing Effective Meetings. Let's first define a meeting. Here's an excellent segment from skillmaker.edu. A formal meeting is a pre-planned gathering of two or more people who have assembled for the purpose of achieving a common goal through verbal interaction. Formal meetings are characterized by their predetermined topics, a set of objectives, and formal notices. What are some of the meetings you conduct? Part of that depends on your organization, your processes in place, and even the type of projects you conduct or the products you create. If you're part of a Scrum team, for example, you have your sprint planning meetings, daily stand-ups, review and retrospect meetings, and more. If you're part of a more conventional project management team, you'll have kickoff meetings, updates, quality assurance meetings, and more. One of the great things about process development is that you can use the PMBOK, the SBOK, and even the ABOK as frameworks, not rule books, to help determine what meetings are beneficial to your organization. And as always, be open to changing your processes and requirements for those meetings as your company grows and evolves. Let's discuss the PMBOK's outlook on how to use meetings as one of your many tools. PMBOK defines three purposes of having a meeting: informational exchange, brainstorming or evaluation of opinions, and decision making. Additionally, there are 4 types of meetings: formal face-to-face, informal face-to-face, formal virtual, and informal virtual. To simplify, let's consider a formal meeting something that involves the sponsor or other stakeholders. An informal meeting would be regular internal updates or operations. Either way, you're in charge of facilitating these meetings. So let's focus on what you can do to run it effectively. Because again, time is a valuable resource, so we want to make sure we don't waste it. Number 1, bring an agenda. This is the most important point. When you facilitate a meeting, everyone should be clear on what the agenda will be. Do you have well-defined objectives and action items? Without an agenda, your meeting has no backbone or no structure to work from. One of the advantages of practicing Scrum principles, for example, is that there's a daily stand-up meeting that has 3 questions which get answered from everyone on the development team. The agenda for the meeting is crystal clear. Everyone knows what's expected, how to respond, and how to leave the meeting. And if you're in a meeting where a topic arises which requires further discussion outside the main agenda, we make a point to follow up with it afterwards. If you're sending emails to invite attendees, have a clear agenda in the invitation. Additionally, if you have a printout and this is a face-to-face meeting, hand it out so everyone is clear of what we're looking to accomplish in this meeting. Company culture. Do you have ground rules in your meetings? For example, let's say, is it acceptable for people to be on their phones and laptops during internal meetings? Certain assumptions can be problematic in company culture, much like cultural conditions when you visit another country. If you're in Hawaii, you may say aloha, but if you're in other parts of the world, that gesture has a completely different meaning. You may assume that having your laptop out during a meeting is acceptable, but your manager may see it as being disrespectful and a sign that you're not paying attention. There are numerous examples of this. It's important to discuss these types of ground rules ahead of time so that communication and expectations are clear and not clouded by assumptions and interpretations. Facilitate, don't dictate. Meetings should have a flow and not just one person dictating information. When you were in school, did you have a teacher or professor who would just talk and talk and talk without interaction with the class? We often call that kind of lecturing droning. When someone drones, they lose their audience. Rather this meeting be an informational exchange, brainstorming, or decision-making, we need to ensure others are engaged. Even if you, the facilitator of the meeting, are just passing on information, use tools like teaching quiz. Hey guys, we're going to start sending out new TPS reports every Monday, and we need your feedback by Friday. Joe, what day will you see the new TPS report? Monday? Great. Sue, what can you do to make sure we get the feedback by Friday? Elicit conversation and responses that keep the energy going to ensure others are engaged to effectively convey or exchange information. Next, time box your meetings. Those attending the meeting should not only have a clear view of the agenda of the meeting, but also how long the meeting should take. Time boxing is allotting a fixed maximum amount of time to a particular activity. Set a time box for your meetings and ensure that everyone is clear of that length. Daily stand-up meetings, for example, should be no longer than 15 minutes. Everyone's time is valuable and we don't want to waste it. As you develop your process, set a time box on your regular meetings so that everyone is clear how much time they have to accomplish the goals set forth in the agenda. Necessity. When I speak of necessity, I'm referring to 3 items: the why, the how, and the who. Let's start with, why am I holding this meeting? Is it a regular update meeting? Is it something that's been agreed upon by others to discuss? Or is it an ad hoc meeting for something specific? The why is important because we have to ask, is this meeting worth our time? Or can I convey this information or ask the questions in a well-written email to the proper people? The how is just as important. As I mentioned earlier, PMBOK defines meetings as face-to-face or virtual. Can we simply have a phone conversation or virtual meeting? Or is this important enough that we need to discuss face-to-face, which, depending on your environment, could be more difficult to schedule? If we determine this meeting is necessary by determining the why and the how, who should be part of this meeting? I'm confident that everyone watching this at some point has been part of a meeting or email chain wondering, why am I on this? Let's not waste time or resources by bringing people into the meeting or the email chain who aren't necessary for the conversation. If you're developing a project process and discussing what meetings should be required for your organization, consider the necessities of the why, the how, and the who. Let's recap those. Bring the agenda, define the company culture, facilitate, don't dictate, time box your meetings, and the necessity, the why, the how, and the who. Utilize these in your meetings, define them in your company process, and encourage growth and better communication. Leave comments, ask questions, and subscribe to our PMP Flow YouTube channel. You can also check us out at www.pmpflow.com. Until next time, keep moving forward and keep learning. Thanks.